Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about functions, and this is a topic I wanted to discuss for a long time. But first I wanted to teach you the fundamentals of Python that are needed to learn about functions. Knowing that, let's just jump in. Alright, let's head over to Visual Studio Code, and I have written today's agenda. Lesson 10, Functions. Functions are very fundamental and useful aspects of programming. They take the role of tools that help develop strong and clean code. So what that basically means is that code that's readable by people, not just a bunch of messy and complex code. Like, no one wants that. I'm talking about code that helps like simplify your ideas, and it also helps reduce errors. So another thing I wanted to tell you is a quote from Linus Torvalds. I really like this quote. And also, by the way, Linus Torvalds is the creator of the Linux kernel. So basically, he's a tech guy, and the quote was, "Anyone can write code that a computer can understand, but good programmers can write code that humans can understand, because collaboration in coding, very important." Alright, let's get back. The print function, round function, and int function are just some examples of Python's built-in functions. So built-in functions are functions that are built into Python's library. So when you install it, you get these functions that you use. We use the print function to print something to the terminal. We use the round function to round, basically to round decimals to numbers, and the int function to convert things to integers. And so those are just some examples. There are actually many built-in functions that will be used regularly in Python. And using the def keyword, which stands for define, we can define our own functions. So this way, you might be asking, why should we create our own functions? Well, I mean, we can reduce the repetition of code. So instead of copying one snippet of code everywhere, you can just put it in a function, and whenever you call that function, that thing will happen. And it also, actually, functions help improve readability, which is very important, so your code doesn't get complex. Before we begin, there are some important definitions you must know, like function, a piece of code that performs an action when called; parameter, the place where a value or values must be passed in a function. So parameters in a function are they're the places where you must put in the arguments, which we'll talk about in a second. So for example, in the print function, we have many parameters, and each one of them are basically, but you separate them with the comma, right? And so when you call that function, it basically combines all those and prints that. So if we do print hello, comma world, then it's gonna print hello world, right? That's what the print function does. So those are the parameters, 1 and 2, two parameters, let's say, and then the arguments we're passing in are hello and world. So that's what an argument is: the actual values values being plugged into the function. Now, the return value, the value in a function outputs after doing a certain action. And a return value is not required in some functions, which I'll show you. So some functions just do an action, they don't return anything. But some functions do return something where you have to store it somewhere, like in a variable or print it. Okay, so let's head on over to the functions file I made, and now let's define a function. So first we're going to use the def keyword. This is like the syntax of how to define a function. Def, and then you're going to put well, the name of the function that you want. So let's say okay, sure. I mean, hello world is a bit cliche, but let's do it. Say hello, and we're not gonna see. We get to decide what parameters this are gonna be in the function because we are the ones making the function. So we get to decide that, and I'm just gonna say 0 parameters, so we don't have to pass in anything. So just say hello. All it does is just print hello world. Hello world. And now we can call this function by typing in its name and then putting well, 2 parentheses next to it. And these parentheses are very important because if you don't add them, Python's just going to ignore it. It's going to think, hey, hello, say hello is a it's a function. Like say hello, yeah, it's a function. It's an object. Cool. What am I supposed to do with it? In order to tell Python that you have to call the function, you have to actually print hello world, you're gonna have to put the parentheses. So when we run that, we get hello world. Classic, very good. And now let's comment all this and let's create a new function, the type of function that has a return value. So let's do def add, which is like a function that adds let's say for now 2 numbers. So I'm gonna name the parameters first and second. So inside the parentheses, so like first we do def, then add, then the name of the function add, and then inside the parentheses you have whatever parameters you want to add. And if you don't want to add any parameters like we did in the last function, just leave it empty. So def add for a second, those are the names of our parameters, and now we're just going to return. We're going to use the return keyword to output the value that we're going to store somewhere. So return first plus second. Now if I call this function add, and let's do 2 and 3. Okay, and if I do this, nothing will actually happen. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. It didn't. The terminal didn't. But basically, nothing was on the terminal. Why? Because we didn't print anything. There isn't any print statement here, right? So we can either make a variable called var and so make a variable called var and store this in it. So basically, we're going to call this function. It's going to return. So it's going to return 2 plus 3. It's going to return 5. We're gonna put that number 5 into var. Then we're going to print it. So basically, now 5 is going to be printed. Or something that's easier and more efficient is just putting this right into the print function. How cool is that? You can put like a function. You can call a function, and that the return value of the function is being called by another function. So we're gonna add 2 and 3. We get 5, and now the print function is gonna put that into the terminal. Again, we get 5. Okay, now that is. You might think, well, yeah, that's pretty much what functions are, and functions can get confusing at first, but they're actually quite simple. Because let's say I write like 100 lines of code in a function. Instead of copying and pasting those 100 lines of code everywhere, I could just define a function, put those lines of code in there, and every time I want to run it, I just call the function, which is why we use functions, and improves readability again. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. One more thing. This is a problem. When I first started coding, I'm like, hold on a minute. What if we don't? Because we don't know how many how many arguments the user wants to pass in. So how are we going to determine the number of parameters? So for example, if we just do add 2, it's going to give us an error. The function add missing 1 required positional argument second. So we didn't pass any argument for the second parameter, right? This parameter. We didn't pass any argument for that. So we need to add that, or else it'll give us an error. What if we do 2, 3, and 4? Because I want to add those 3 numbers. Well, add takes only 2 positional arguments, but 3 were given. So, I mean, that's a problem, right? What if I want to add 100 different numbers, and I put 100 parameters in here? Cool. What if next time I want to put add 99 numbers? And you can't just do that. You can't just change it every time because you don't know what the user is going to do. And so I saw that as a real problem, and I was like, what am I going to do now? Then I came across this one article saying how we can use the args method to solve this. So let's see. We can do def add, and then we're gonna put a star in front of the argument. Nums. So the nums stands for numbers. So once we put the star in front, it doesn't matter how many arguments they pass in. If they pass in 1 argument, 2 arguments, 3 arguments, 100 arguments, it's all gonna come under this one sequence. This one like list, right? Not exactly a list, but it's all a sequence. And now we can iterate over the sequence by making a for loop for num in nums. For num in nums, we can, well, let's make a first count, which is 0. It starts with 0 for num in nums. Sorry, count plus equals to 1. So not plus equals to 1, but plus equals to num. So if we pass in 1, 2, and 3 into the add function, it's gonna go through every single number in that. So 1, 2, and 3, and every time it's gonna add that to the variable count. So count. So in 1, 2, and 3, we come across 1. What's count plus 1? Count plus equals to 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Then we come across 2. It becomes 1 plus 2 is 3. Then we come across 3. Then 3 plus 3 is 6. So we keep incrementing this value count every time we iterate over the sequence nums, right, numbers. And so if we do print add 1, 2, and 3, then it's going to return. Oh, sorry, I didn't even put a return. Look, I made it. It's sort of like a function which doesn't even have a return value. And I used to make this mistake a lot. Seems like I'm still making it. I didn't even put the return value, so we have to use the return keyword to return count. So essentially what this is doing is we're going to pass in as many arguments as we want, and it's going to take that into a sequence and go through that sequence. Keep adding the numbers again and again, and then at the end we take that sum and we return it, and we print that value. So 1, 2, and 3. So we got 6. So we can go from right to left. We actually have to go from right to left. That's an easy way to basically get whatever we're gonna. So basically, it's a good way to know what we're gonna be returning. So add 1, 2, 3. So when we do that, we get 6. Now we use the print function on 6 to put it into the terminal. It's just like that. And now if we create another function called double, okay, it just so def double and num. So this is just gonna double it. So return num times 2. All right. So now if we do double add 1 2 3, print double add 1 2 3. All right. Let's go from right to left. Add 1 2 3. What does this tell us? It tells us that we have to add 1 2 and 3, and then we get 6. Now let's go move on to this function double. We're going to double 6, we get 12. Now move on to the print function. Now we're going to put that into the terminal. 12. There you go. You got 12. So you can nest functions like that, which is pretty neat in my opinion. So yeah, that's all I wanted to show you today. Functions are very useful, as you probably know at this point. So yeah, if you like that video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.